Buongiorno from SuperHouse, boy.
Welcome to episode 33 of SuperHouse, everyone. I am Andrew, coming in from Los Angeles, and this week it's just going to be me because the rest of the guys are super busy, but I kind of like because it's not just me. I have with me an old friend from Japan. His name was Mark Reichwein.
Hello, hello.
Thanks for coming,
That's
man.
me. Yeah, no problem.
And where are you hailing from?
I am in Osaka Prefecture in Japan, and that's where I am, yes.
How long have you been there?
I've been here now 10 years. 10 years.
And,
Well-
okay, yeah.
Osaka, I mean, I haven't been in Osaka the whole 10 years, but, Japan in general.
Okay. And just to give a little bit of a history here, I taught English in Japan from 2006 to 2009. I think it was about 3 years, 3 months for me. And Mark and I worked together at that time. And Mark was actually a Japanese teacher of mine for a hot second, for like 2 or 3 months, because one of the companies had this program about, it kind of wanted you to graduate from teaching and go into other jobs in Japan. And doing that, you needed to learn Japanese, and I guess they had no actual Japanese people, so Mark had passed what's known as the N1 test. It's like passing the bar of Japanese tests, so they made him teach us.
Yeah. Well, they kind of asked us. They asked a few of us at that company to do it, and they said they'd pay us. So of course we were like, yeah, sure. So
Right. So that was kind of an interesting time. We were all in Saitama at the time, right?
yep.
Saitama is a area just a little bit north of Tokyo, and I like to call it the New Jersey of Japan, if Tokyo is New York.
Yeah.
So
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, that's like the best way to put it. It's like right near it, but not quite as good, and a little dirtier.
Yeah.
And you hear Mark's progeny in the background.
Yeah, so my two daughters, that daughter right now you just heard was Luca, and the other one is Nico, and they're just hanging out at the breakfast table.
Is she the crazy one that I met?
Let's see,
I
you met
met-
both of them or
I
only
met
one of them?
both, but one was crazier than the other.
Yeah, that's the
The-
second one.
The younger one, yeah.
Yeah, the younger one, she's definitely crazy.
Okay. So, dude, let's take it from the beginning with you.
Okay.
How did you get into Japanese stuff in general?
Very first time I got interested in Japan or Japanese was when I was in high school, about sophomore, junior, and a friend of mine lent me a tape of Japanese anime, and it was all in Japanese with English subtitles, and that was the first time I had heard the language. And when I listened to it, I just thought it sounded like the most amazing. Well, I don't know, the most amazing, but it sounded so great to me that I just thought, up until that point, I'd always wanted to learn a second language. So, and I had tried different languages, learning on my own, and they never did it for me. But once I heard Japanese, I thought it was just sounded so good, and I had to learn it. So that's what drove me to come to Japan.
So, what was the anime?
It was I don't know how obscure it is, but it was called Devil Hunter Yoko,
Okay.
and it was just it was kind of like a Sailor Moon type thing, except more gritty and more nudity. And it was just kind of like that. It was weird, but I don't know why my friend let me borrow it, but
You had basically no interest in Japan before that?
I didn't really know anything about Japan before that. I was like, I had watched some animes, but in English, and I thought they were cool, but I never connected them to Japan. It was just always like, oh, it's just a cool cartoon, but then it connected when I saw one in the original Japanese.
And from that point on, I mean, what like did you start playing more Japanese games, or was it mainly anime, or was there any other thing from Japan you were into, or just that?
I had actually already been playing games that were made in Japan, and even with those, I didn't really connect the two very much. It was just always like, oh, it's a cool game, but then I started getting more into it, and I realized some of my favorite games are made in Japan, and I would look up a screenshot of like the Japanese Final Fantasy 7 or something like that, and I would think, whoa, this is in Japanese. This is awesome. I got to learn this language, and so that's part of it.
Yeah, for me, like I think I probably said this before on other podcasts, but uh, it was probably first a little bit of gaming. Like
Hmm.
I was aware that Nintendo was a Japanese company, and Sega was as well, and those were the two big ones in the '90s. And then when PlayStation came out, Sony was also Japanese. But on top of that, um, my introduction to anime was actually on the Sci-Fi Channel,
Hmm.
where it was like really grotesque anime. Like
Hmm.
my first few were like Ghost in the Shell and Akira. There was one called Demon City Shinjuku, one called Eight Man After, uh,
Hmm.
stuff like that. Neo Geo actually had a game for Eight Man After. It was pretty popular in Japan. The
Hmm.
main story from RoboCop was actually stolen, or they stole the story for RoboCop from Eight Man After.
Really, I had never even heard of that
Yeah,
anime before.
yeah, it was it's like a hero type of thing, but kind of gory. So for
Hmm.
me, unlike a generation just after me with Pokemon and stuff like that, Yu-Gi-Oh, even Dragon Ball,
Hmm.
my introduction was like gory cartoons. Oh, Ninja Scroll was another big one.
Oh yeah, I know that one.
So for the longest time, that's what I viewed anime as, not as like a cutesy type of thing.
Hmm.
So I was really into that for a while.
Yeah,
And yeah,
that's
go
kind of
ahead.
like the first anime that I realized was Japanese. Like I said, it had some nudity in it, and it was also kind of violent. But
Right.
then yeah, so it's kind of the same.
It was like I mean, the closest we got like to anything adult in American cartoons that noticed at the time was Homer Simpson saying "damn"
Yeah,
sometimes on Fox. Like
yeah.
other than that, like there was nothing like that. I mean, there was. I mean, there was Heavy Metal, the movie, the animated movie, but I wasn't
Hmm.
aware of that as a kid.
Hmm.
Um, I wasn't aware of anything like that. So that stuff was interesting. But so you went to college. You started to get really hardcore in Japan, and did you study
Yep.
by yourself before going to college, or what?
Yep. So after I got into it, I started trying to learn on my own, like I had done before with other languages. So I would in high school, I just made flashcards for all the Japanese alphabets, and then trying to learn, phrases and stuff like that. And I was also involved with a program called AFS, which is a student exchange program for other countries. And I I applied to go to Japan through that because even before that, I was helping out voluntarily with them. And then I thought, okay, I got to do this on my own. I got to try this. So in high school, I went for a summer through that program to Japan. And during that summer, we did some study and then had a host family. And then I came back. And that was only like a couple months. But then, yeah, before I graduated, I did that. And then when I graduated high school, I went straight to college and started studying more.
Your degree was in Japanese or what?
Yeah, it was Japanese major. Yep.
How far do you get? Like, let's say you start from zero year one, like
Hmm.
no pre-studying in college.
Hmm.
By the time you graduate college, for like 4 years, what's your level like?
Definitely conversational level. Um, like even if I didn't have any experience before college, I would have even just for those 4 years of college. It was such a good program that I would recommend from Ohio State University's program
Okay.
that you know pretty good conversational level. just from going for 4 years, and not
Okay.
even going to Japan. You wouldn't even have to go.
And so, like, let's fast forward a little bit. So you graduate college and then you move to Japan.
Yep, right away. I didn't even go to my graduation ceremony for
God.
OSU. Because I applied and they said, okay, you have to be here at this time, and it was like, okay, I'll just miss my ceremony. So then I went,
Wow.
and that, and that was the company that we met at.
That's right. Yeah, let's not say any names, but yeah, we met this company in Saitama, and then we switched companies also in Saitama.
Yep.
But man, those are crazy times, dude.
Yeah, it was
Right out of
fun.
college, living in Japan.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know about you, maybe it was the same for you, but it was my first real job. I there it goes. There goes.
She's going.
Yep.
Yeah, it actually was my first job outside of college.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So same here.
Yeah, my first work experience. And what's funny is, like, after moving back to America, I noticed like how much like Japanese culture had affected me. Like there were times where I was working at a company in LA where I was doing QC, quality control, for Blu-ray discs, and I would write in my notes, it seems like this, it seems like that a lot. And that it wasn't a seems technically, it was just it really is that way.
Right.
But I was writing that as like a softener, and like somebody had like pointed it out to me. They're like, stop saying seems so much. So I think because like your first job outside of your first real job, I guess it can leave an impression on you.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And it also like it kind of you kind of lose part of your original culture though too, because all your friends back home, they have jobs in your home country in America, and you have a totally different job experience than them, and you go home and it's like people are talking about their jobs, and a lot of things are the same, but there's a good amount that's different about working in Japan than working in America. So it's kind of like we lose that corporate culture, that's American corporate culture in a way.
Yeah, I mean we don't have the nomikais a lot. A nomikai is like a company party. It technically means drink party,
Yeah, right.
and there's like not a lot of that. Like I don't, my coworkers right now, none of us hang out at all after work.
Oh, really?
Like not ever, and no one even like hardly anyone goes out to eat lunch together.
Mm.
So that part kind of sucks.
Mm. Yeah, I like that too about Japan actually. It's really cool. Like everyone wants to, get together and try to make connections and be friendly. Well, I mean, I'm kind of on the whole, but not everyone, but yeah, it's like, going out with your senpai, what's the word?
Senpai. Most people even understand that now in English, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Did you
just
know
going
that?
out with yeah, really.
You're superior.
Yeah, your superior, or even not, you doesn't have to be your superior. Just yeah, going out with friends and talking and shitting, bullshitting around. Just yeah, it's
fun.
nice.
Like it's weird. Like especially in nerd culture, a lot of people know what the word senpai is just because of anime and shit.
Yeah, right.
There's that whole like senpai noticed me thing on the internet,
Yeah,
on
I'm
Reddit
sure.
and everywhere else.
Yeah, I'm sure people who are into anime and stuff, what they feel when they hear the word senpai is probably so much different than what a normal person would feel when they hear the word senpai. It's like, I don't know. I have just a feeling.
What's your feeling? Like nervousness?
No, like to me, it's more like a normal kind of word. It's just like a normal thing.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I feel like sometimes, I was like that when I was into anime and stuff when I was a kid. I mean, you would like glorify everything. It's like, oh, senpai, or all these Japanese words that you start learning. And it's like, but then once you get into the culture, it's like, this is just normal stuff. It's not cutesy anime land.
Right. There's a lot of disillusionment that happens.
Hmm. And yeah, like I said, I was like that. I used to be kind of an
I
anime geek.
Yeah, I was like that as well, especially with like console gaming. Still am to some degree, but
Mhm.
definitely a lot less than before. So you graduate college, you go there immediately. Did you? What was like your culture shock, kind of at the beginning? Did you have any?
Um, the very first time I went, when I was in high school, or when I was working,
Give me like your best culture shock story if you have one.
I would say, well, just the normal culture shock that most people get, where, so the very first, I mean, the very, very first day I went to Japan when I was in high school, they basically got off the plane, went to the hotel, and right away, even before we had to go to sleep, they pretty much made us all go into an onsen together. And and it was like, come on, it's our first day and we all have to get naked right away. It's like, oh
Right.
man. So
So
that was it.
an onsen, for people that don't know, that's a hot spring. That's like a bathhouse, but it's a natural hot spring that like, literally from the ground usually.
Yep. Yeah, man. So that was kind of pushing it for me. I was just like tired. I'm like, okay, yeah, Japan, I'm excited, but come on. I
Right.
gotta ease into this thing.
Right. Right. Right.
But I did it.
I've only been in onsen twice actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's
It's
nice.
it's a relaxing time.
It would be more relaxing. Like I've done it a lot, but I would much rather still be alone. I'm still not Japanese enough to just be like enjoying it with other people. Because that's another thing coworkers do. They'll go to like onsens together and they're cool. It's just like, get naked. No
Right.
big deal.
Right. Right. Right.
And I'm cool with that. Like ideally, I think I mean, it's no big deal, but like just my personal feeling, I'm still very American about it. I'm still very, I want to be by myself. I don't want to hang around with guys naked, you know?
Yeah. 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 Right. So, do you think, like, I'm just jumping off of what you just said, do you think that you're 10 years in, you got two kids there, you married there, you have a job there.
Mhm.
Do you think that your coworkers, and you speak fluently, basically, like, do you think your coworkers think you're Japanese enough?
I think so, yeah. There's never, I feel like I'm accepted as just, one of the, just a normal worker there at the company that, it's mostly Japanese. And all the people I work directly right now with, I mean, there are no uh, there are no Western foreigners on my floor. There's foreigners in the sense that there's some Asian uh, people from some Asian countries nearby.
South Korea and China, usually, right?
Yeah, like China and yeah, I don't know about any Koreans, but yeah, like some other like that. But I mean, as far as Western English speaking goes, it's just it's just me on the floor, and then so I think I feel accepted, and there's no real barrier there. It's not like you know I just get along just like everyone else.
And so, can we, like, I guess we can't say your company name, but can we
Yeah.
say what you do?
Um. Yeah. Sure.
No company names, no
But
company names.
the thing is, it's like even if I don't say the company name, if I say what I do, it's so easy to just be like, okay, Google search,
Oh,
there it
okay.
is. You know what I mean?
Right.
I
All
mean,
right.
let's just say I'm a translator. I mean,
That's enough.
I'm
We
a
can
translator.
Japanese to English.
Yep, Japanese to English.
Right. That's all
And
we'll say.
so, and that includes so writing and also spoken interpretation for meetings and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Interpreting, yeah.
What's harder? Probably the spoken one, right?
Um, yeah, well, it is harder. I like I used to think it was like so in the beginning it's really hard. It's you're on the spot. It's like you have to keep the conversation moving. You can't be sitting there going all the time, all the time. But once you get used to it, it's actually not that bad. It's just like basically just being in a conversation and just be like, oh, he said this, oh, he said this, oh, he said this. And it's not too bad after a while. So I think the actual translation part, I think it's more I think it requires more thought because you have to sometimes be really creative and you're trying to make the text as, high quality as possible. And so you're kind of pressured on that kind of pressure's there to make it good and high quality. But when you're interpreting for someone, it's not like you have to say everything perfect and make it, and it's not going to be printed and going out to go on sale or anything.
Right.
It's just like you and some guys, and then you just got to get it across, and it's not going to be judged. So that's, in a sense, interpreting is a little easier, I think.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
thought that at all.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't have thought that. I didn't think that in the beginning either.
So, like, how do you feel about, like, a lot of people say you can't, like, learn a language completely, like, past puberty. That's what Noam Chomsky says. It's like a famous linguist.
Hmm.
Uh, but it seems like you've pretty much done it, like, post high school, kinda.
Hmm.
So, like, do you have any advice for people out there? Because, like, this is kind of a big one. There's a lot of people that want to learn Japanese.
Hmm. Yeah, my advice is always, excuse me, just you got to get speaking. You got to find someone who speaks and speak with that person. You just got to find someone that's willing and who knows the language that's a native. Otherwise, it's just going to be you on your own. You can learn the grammar, and it's totally cool to study all the grammar on your own and everything. But if you really want to talk, you really just got to find a friend.
Right.
Or in my case, I had a girlfriend early on when I started living in Japan.
Right.
And that really, really helps.
Yeah, people always say that's the fastest way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I first started learning and started, like, saying just sentences, I wasn't used to that because I had only taken Spanish in high school and the teacher couldn't speak. Or it was in
Hmm.
Georgia. There were literally no Latinos or anybody that could speak Spanish natively in the whole school.
Oh, really?
Yes. So a lot of people from California especially can't believe that, but
Wow.
it's true. And it was a small school for one, but yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
so like no speaking another language practice ever in my life until after I was out of college, pretty
Oh,
much.
wow.
So it was so difficult and awkward, because you gotta
Hmm.
like. There's lots of like factors that no one ever brings up, like especially in the beginning, if you're speaking like all day,
Hmm.
or you're just fumbling through it out all day, like
Hmm.
you get what I would call language fatigue.
Yeah.
Your brain gets tired. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's a kind of fatigue that you haven't had in a long time. It feels like you've done homework for like all day, kinda.
Yeah, I
That's
remember that.
Yeah. And no one ever says anything about that. Like
Hmm.
when you're learning, no one ever told me about all these like quote unquote side effects.
Yeah, and
So
that's weird. I hadn't thought about that in a long time, but yeah, I totally remember having that fatigue.
I think everybody has like goes through it.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
So like let's move on from there. And you have been a gamer your whole life, you said. And what I
Mhm.
thought was very interesting was you were the first guy that ever told me like Mother or Earthbound was your favorite game of all time. That's still true, correct?
Yes, my favorite game of all time. Yes, that's still true.
So I just listened to this podcast called it's under the Laser Time podcast
Mhm.
network, and all they did was talk about Mother and all the different versions and all that. So it made me think of
Mhm.
you again. And I still haven't played it, but if you could
Mhm.
just like let us know like why this game? Why not Chrono Trigger or something else?
Chrono Trigger was like my second favorite for a long time, actually, but uh, it's just a weird. It's something you can't really explain. Well, you can explain it, but it's just a feeling more than. it's more of a feeling, and other than playing a game and enjoying it a lot, it's all about feelings with this game basically. So the story is, I was all into RPGs when I was in high school, and so there was Chrono Trigger, like Final Fantasy 3, and then um, so I was all into that, and then I heard about this game called Earthbound. I think I mean, I didn't just hear about it. The very first time I saw it is before I even heard about it. I was in Walmart or something, and they had one of those games like monitors where it would show previews of upcoming games, and you could like choose which game you wanted to see a preview for. And there's just like a monitor sitting there in the game section. And I saw this game, and it was Earthbound, and the graphics were so different from all the other traditional RPGs I was used to seeing.
You weren't in high
And
school at this time, right? This
yeah,
was you were?
this was 95, so I should have been my first year of high school. Or
I didn't
maybe
know
I
you were,
was,
I didn't
no,
know you were
maybe I
that far
was,
ahead of me.
I might have been eighth grade because
How
90,
old are you? How old are you?
I am, shit, I am 30. Okay, I'm starting to forget now.
You forgot. Oh my God.
I'm 34. Okay, I'll be turning 35 in 2 months. Yeah.
Okay, so you're basically 3 years older than me. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, sorry. I was like,
Okay.
I thought we were the same age for a second there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm pretty close. So yeah, I just saw that, and it just gave me this feeling that it was kind of like love at first sight with a video game, pretty much.
That's very interesting.
It's really, really weird. But yeah, I just got this really warm feeling when I saw the game, the graphics and just this whole atmosphere just like drew me in. And that's why I love it. It's just about nostalgia kind of now, but because I mean,
Right,
most things are like that anyway.
right.
But it just has a special place, with me.
So let me try to explain this. Again, sorry, I got to explain a few things to the listener. So, Earthbound is an JRPG. It was called Mother in Japan because of John Lennon, I think.
I
The creator liked a John Lennon song with Mother in it or something like that.
That's
That's the
possible. I
only
forget what
reason.
I remember reading something like that. But I mean, the game itself, I mean, it does have a theme that's, I mean, it doesn't, the word, the title of the game does have something to do with the game itself. It's because you are a kid and you leave your home and you have to keep talking to your mother as you go through the game
Ah,
because there's a thing in the game where you get homesick at certain times during the game. It's and then you have to talk to your mother or you're not going to get over being homesick, and being homesick is kind of like a status ailment. It kind
that's
of affects
interesting.
you in yeah, it affects you in battles, and so I mean, so it does make sense for the game
Okay.
too.
And this game is, even though it's an RPG, it's not a fantasy game in the slightest. It's actually, and again, I haven't played it. I'm going to get to it soon, but from what I've heard, it's kind of feels like it's Japanese people in love with American culture and trying to recreate something like the Goonies, but make it into a video game.
Yep, it's how Japan sees American culture, and I think it does a good job because it's set in America, and it's set in, you'll see in the very intro it says 1990X, so it's set in a modern time, modern for that time.
Right. And like this game at the time was like not really a hit, and some of that had to do with their marketing campaign.
Yep.
If you remember in the game magazines, again, I'm kind of getting this from Laser Time, but like they were trying to copy like the Nickelodeon thing where they were like trying to be a little bit gross like Ren and Stimpy or something, but that didn't really reflect what the game was like at all. Like they were literally like little tabs to like pull out in the magazine to sniff. I remember these.
Oh yeah, I had those because I had those magazines too, and I was one of the people that loved that marketing campaign, and it actually brought me in even more.
Really?
Uh, yeah, because the slogan was "This game stinks" was the slogan.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I was like, and then all the cards stunk, and they had little things from the game, like screenshots of things in the game where it would make you feel like, oh, this is a part of the game where if you could smell what was going on, it was rank. And I just thought that was cool.
But did it reflect
A
the
lot of people
game
did.
at all, though?
I think it did because there's a lot of things in the game where it's like it's very um it's kind of rough, meaning I mean they'll talk in ways that it's not like disgusting, but there's like fart, no, there's like burp sound effects, there's mentions of things. I mean, like there's a character in the game who farts, and I mean, there's just little things like that. It's not like over the top. It's not like all over the place, but I mean, it's sprinkled in here and there, and so I think it kind of matches the feeling of the game a little bit. Yeah.
It seems like the game has also kind of like achieved cult status. You even said you went to like a mother convention in
Yep.
Japan.
Yep. In Japan, they have them just when they don't have them regularly, but whenever they get around to it, I guess it's just fans that do it. It's kind of like those anime uh, doujinshi. That's like fan created comics. So they sell a lot of like fan created comics based on Mother and fan created merchandise, and they do it not to make a profit, pretty much, and but they just do it just to celebrate the game and meet people and dress up as characters and stuff like that.
Does that happen for a lot of games over there, like Metroid or anything like that? Because I never heard of like a something over here for just one game like that.
I'm actually not too sure because by the time I started living in Japan, I stopped being an anime freak and I didn't keep up with the anime culture, so I don't really know. But even in America, we have um, Earthbound has its own. It's like the Earthbound fan community is, I think, pretty well known in the gaming community um, as being just kind of crazy and very, very. What's the word? What's the word?
Rabid fan base.
Yeah, and they're not a bad fan base, so maybe saying they're crazy is not the right word, but I mean they're very dedicated. That's the word.
Yeah, okay.
Everyone's very dedicated in keeping it alive and keeping the love going. And I mean, there's a big website and a big community, and I was part of that community. And yeah, and they had conventions. They've had conventions almost every year since like 1999 or 2000-ish or so.
Were you upset whenever they canceled Earthbound 64?
Yeah, I was definitely watching that as it went on and being like, all right, yes, yes, a new Earthbound game, yes. And then when it didn't happen, that was pretty sad. Everyone
As,
was.
as of the time of this recording, there was like this past Tuesday, I think, this YouTube channel called Metal Jesus Rocks. He does like a lot of retro gaming stuff on his channel, and he had this special on like canceled games, and like I think one of the first ones was Earthbound 64. Like they're kind of lamenting over these games that were canceled.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah.
and but there's a happy story. There's a happy ending to that though, because Earthbound 64 ended up being repurposed into Mother 3 for Game Boy Advance, which did come out, but it came out in Japan only.
Right. I
So
gotta
that
tell
was
you,
really
every
nice.
time somebody online, because this happens a lot in retro gaming forums or videos or whatever, they're like, "You got to know a lot of Japanese to play it," and then I'm like, "I can play it." Sorry, but it's just like all this study, I want to be able to play some games like that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like a big hurdle that a lot of people that are into this stuff just they don't have the time for or whatever. But
Right.
But
But
yeah,
now that there's a English translation,
it's a
unofficial.
fanlation or whatever.
Yep, fan translation by a good friend named Clyde, aka Tomato.
Wait, you know him, right? Personally?
Yeah. Yeah, because like I said, I went to a lot of the conventions and he was at some of them. So, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
So
they're all
from
really cool people.
so from the time whenever we were living in the same town as each other to now,
Hmm.
like you've had two kids and you've gotten married.
Yep,
Like other
that's
than
true.
that, how has your life in Japan changed, or how has Japan changed to you and your perspective?
From my perspective, nothing ever changes really. It's just the same old through my eyes. I'm a very, very indoor person and I'm I don't pay attention to my surroundings and I just worry about me and my world.
God,
It's just the truth. I've ever since I was a kid, I've just always been in my own world and things happening around me are just whatever and I'm just happy doing my own thing and so I don't know, nothing really changed except for obviously being married and having kids. It's now my world is all about like it's like a job. It's like a new job I have. It's
right,
when my kids are awake, my job is to take care of them and keep them happy. And then when they go to bed, then it's like, all right, now it's me time.
right.
So that's the big change. That's the biggest thing.
What was it like? I mean, this is a very general question, but do you have any like anecdotes, stories, or anything about having kids in Japan?
Um,
Any story that kind of
Having kids in
stands
Japan.
out?
Yeah, I think I do. I'm sure I do. Like, um, hmm. Just some funny things that happen when you have kids in Japan who are half Japanese and half, not. It's just all the funny kind of weird things that you have to see happen with that. For example, like every time your daughters see a foreigner on the street, they assume oh, it's daddy's friend. And it's like, oh no, but I can see what you're thinking. See where you get that
We
from.
could be friends.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes even Japanese people think that even maybe, but even adults, I don't think that might be totally true, but sometimes I get that feeling that Japanese people think we're like a team or something like that. It's like we all know each other,
I mean,
but but
yeah.
we're just strangers to each other, just like anyone else. So,
They're just not used to it, you know? Like that's like the whole idea of another race. Like in
hmm
America, we're bombarded with it every second of our lives.
hmm
But like in Japan, it's like this thing that's like they don't really deal with ever, really. Like
right.
so that's like one of the biggest culture shocks I had. Like I even like after a year or two uh living there, I remember like in Kichijoji or something, we went to like uh what's that one? It's like Yoshinoya but shittier. Uh
Oh yeah. Sukiya.
Matsuya. It was Matsuya.
Oh, Matsuya. Yeah. Okay.
I didn't like that one that much, but we walked
Actually,
in. You might have been with us, dude. Actually,
yeah.
it was me, Mike, and you maybe.
hmm
And we walk in, and this old Japanese woman walks out, and she goes in Japanese, "All you guys look the same," ha ha ha, and then just leaves. And we were
I
like,
think I was
"Wow,
there. I
yeah,
think I
you might
was
have been."
there, and then I didn't hear it. But then you guys started like laughing or something. I was like, "What happened? What happened?"
Yeah, yeah. But to be fair, you and I look sort of similar.
Right, right. Like kind of. Yeah, I can see that.
We can sort of see with
Little
Mike didn't look,
similarities.
we didn't look like him at all.
Right.
But I remember speaking about that when we were in Fujimino.
hmm
Uh, remember the kids would always get us mixed up. Like they
Yeah.
would say hey to you, and then you wouldn't say hey back because you didn't know them,
Yeah.
and then they would get mad at me for not saying hey to them.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. I didn't really realize it either. But yeah, that's hilarious. I don't think
Yeah,
I had the opposite though. I don't think any of my kids did that and said hey to you though.
I think you
Maybe they
came into
did.
contact with my students more than the other way
Right.
around.
Right.
But it's just like I couldn't help but feel like, man, you guys just can't tell white people apart at all. Like at all.
Yeah. I think I even had a lot shorter hair even maybe.
Yeah, my hair was
Maybe.
always longer, but not as long as it is now. I remember
Yeah.
one teacher, the English teacher, he could speak English, and I couldn't speak much Japanese at the time. He came up to me and
Mhm.
he said, like, something really indirect in English, like,
Mhm.
have you ever thought about what haircuts are like? Or
Oh my God.
something really indirect like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I
Have
was
you
new
heard of this
there.
thing called
I-
haircuts? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you know what it's like going to get your hair cut? No, even that's too direct. Something very direct.
You mean
I mean, very indirect. Yeah.
very around the bush.
And it was interesting to hear it in English too, but that's what he said. And then I got my hair
Oh
cut like
man.
over that weekend just to, not get a complaint. But
Really?
yeah, I wasn't trying to get fired
Yeah.
or even have my name brought up at a meeting.
Yeah. Oh man, during that time, I was really scared of being fired. Like, because you know how they in the very beginning they gave us like these training sessions, and they would say, I guess it's cool to say we were teachers. Yeah, we are. That's not a big deal. So we were teaching kids, right? So, and they would train us, be like, you know, don't give these kids the wrong like impression, or don't touch them, don't go hang out with them, and you can get in a lot of trouble even if you're just a nice guy and you don't have any wrong intentions. Things can be taken the wrong way, and it's kids, and you're a teacher, you don't want things to be taken the wrong way. So I was always like scared, like I didn't want to. I don't want. I was like, whenever a kid like tried to touch me, I would be like, oh shit, don't touch me, don't touch
Oh
me. I don't want to
yeah,
get
yeah,
fired. I
yeah.
don't want to get fired.
Yeah,
Like,
they would try to do that to me all the time too, and I was like, "Oh no."
yeah, and like a girl one day, she like gave me a big hug, and I was like, oh shit, and I just like kind of like tried to scramble away, and I felt really bad because it kind of hurt her feelings a little bit, and I was like,
Right.
oh man, but still, it was kind of a scary time being a teacher.
I forget, were you middle school or elementary?
I was both. The first year was middle school, and the second year was elementary. And then after that, at my next company, I did 3 more years of elementary.
Okay. I did like a day of elementary. I just couldn't take it. I liked the kids, but I didn't like making lesson plans and being in there solo at
Oh,
all.
right.
Not at all.
Yeah, it's definitely very, very different.
Yeah. I mean, the
Yeah.
kids are happier, I felt like.
Oh yeah, it's like the involvement and the enthusiasm is great to see them like be like, yay, or something like that.
Another culture shock I had when I was there was like to explain to the listener again, in their PE classes, they'll like stack the kids up like a pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally all the kids are on all fours, and then another kid like will put his hands and feet on two other kids like on their
Yep.
backs. So they're all on all fours, like kind of on top of each other, making this like human pyramid thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a huge thing with kids over there.
Yep.
And I couldn't help but feel like this would never happen in America.
Yeah, I had
One kid
never
would fall
seen it
down,
before.
and one kid would be too fat, something like that. A parent would sue the fuck out of the school.
Yeah.
Like this, there's no fucking way this is gonna happen in America.
Yeah, that's true. Even I saw on TV like maybe a couple years ago they were doing a thing about that in Japan, and there are some schools that do huge pyramids, and pretty much every year, some kid gets hurt, like really seriously hurt, injured, and there's even
In
been
Japan?
deaths. Yeah, in Japan.
Jeez.
And they're like, I mean, I'm sure it's rare, but there have been deaths because I mean, the pyramid is freaking huge, and that's a lot of kids tumbling down on each other, and the person on the bottom in the middle, that kid is going to be crushed or suffocated or something, you know. So yeah, that's. And they were talking about on the show. They were saying maybe we need to limit this. We shouldn't get any bigger than a certain, number of kids, and I'm thinking, yeah, duh.
I mean, like, there was a part of me though that I kind of like seeing it because A, it was different, and B, it made me feel like Americans are just so careful and so legalistic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like I said, like somebody would sue you because of that, because their kid got a fucking bruise
Yeah.
or something like that. Like,
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I think that's definitely crossing the line. It's definitely a cool thing to do, as long as you're not like I said, going like 50 kids into a huge pyramid where they
right.
fall and break all their arms and stuff like that.
Does it? I mean, are they thinking that it's just fun, or do they look at it as like a team building exercise, or?
I think it's like a team building exercise, definitely, because they're very much about teaching kids working together, working as a team, working for the group,
Right, right,
the
right.
group mentality. So it's
That was definitely there
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. I also saw that a lot.
I remember my first day teaching. Um, I they're all like in Japan. You make the food in the room, or like you put it on your uh, tray. Like you get like all these like batches or whatever, and you put the food on the trays. Like and make the trays, right?
Yeah, so basically, the kids are the cafeteria workers.
Right. It comes pre-cooked, but yeah, they put it on. They get it all ready for each other. But my first day was just in the faculty room, not with the kids.
Hmm.
And I remember like I got my food, put it on my tray, and went to go sit down.
Hmm.
I didn't think about like, oh, this I got to make this for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. I was the same way. It's like, come on, you get your food, then you start eating, and
It's like,
that's normal. But then everyone's like, no, everyone has to be like, up, standing, making sure everyone has what they need, and you have to be moving around. You have to be getting things ready, and then you sit down. But then you don't eat. You have to make sure everyone's ready to eat. It's like, okay, everyone eat. You gotta say itadakimasu. It's like, okay, geez, my food's getting cold. Let's just eat when we get our
right,
food.
right, 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 right.
If everyone ate when they got their own food, everyone would be eating a warm meal because everyone gets their own food and they get it right away and they start eating.
You sound like you're almost kind of against this.
I'm not against it, but I'm against it to going too far. Like I think it's cool to help
eat
out.
your food while it's warm, basically.
Yeah, like I think it's cool to help out, but I mean, it shouldn't be expected that it's like, oh, you didn't get everyone's plate. It's like, come on, get your own plate. It's right there. It's like, I, I don't know. I just think it's just needs to be more casual. I mean,
Right.
casual for the teachers at least. I mean, sure, maybe teach the kids, responsibility and stuff. But I mean, if you're just teachers in the room by yourselves, it's like,
Right.
come, let's just
I,
eat lunch.
I remember like my Japanese was so low when I first moved there. Like I remember like them saying itadakimasu before they ate,
Hmm.
and I was thinking, what's this prayer they're saying, and why? I thought like religion wasn't supposed to be in schools here. Like I didn't know anything, and I remember one of the other English teachers said "dame" to another English teacher, like in training or something, and I was like, "What's dame?" Like I moved there with like no ability at all.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow, that must have been huge. Like, I mean, a huge shock then. Wow.
that's why like I studied like crazy, man. Like remember Mike? He had come in with like a year or two of a Japanese minor or something.
Hmm.
And then after like 6 months or so, I was ahead of his ass.
Really? Wow.
'Cause I studied my ass off.
Nice.
I couldn't stand not understanding things.
Yeah, right.
And when you work in the middle schools, they just let you study in the faculty room
Right.
when you're not helping out or going into a class.
Right. That was really nice. That was a big help for me as well, actually. Studying, and I mean, I knew uh, enough Japanese, but still I wasn't like at the level that I could have been. So, yeah, I studied a whole lot.
Do you feel like, I mean, you must, but do you feel like you're still learning?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Like little things here and there, I'll think to myself, "Oh, I thought it was kind of this way, but in reality, it's more this way for everyone." It's just little things here and there.
Right.
And I'm not talking about like learning new words and stuff, because everyone can learn new words. I mean, that's you never know all the words of Japanese. Not even Japanese people know all the words of Japanese.
Right.
But it's more like kind of like feeling and meaning and intention, all
Right.
that, these little things about behind the language that you kind of come to learn.
What's I'm kind of getting over this now, but like what's been a problem for me in the past was like when you speak English, you're speaking like with I don't know what the number is, but it's like 300, 500 sounds.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not that many, but like let's say somewhere around 100 to 250,
Mm-hmm.
like the conservative estimate.
Mm-hmm.
You go to Japanese, you're speaking around 50 sounds.
Right. Because they only got the 5 vowel sounds.
It's much less than half.
Yeah.
So it would often felt like I was kind of saying the same sounds over and over.
I never thought of it that way, but yeah, that's true. You are like only spitting out certain vowels all the time, and there's the consonants, and there's still not that many of those either.
No, not that many. So that was tough, but and that also like having kanji in the language and the language kind of like evolving with kanji,
Hmm.
it made that like even worse, like because like Japanese through the years has lost sounds. Like there used to be even more, but I guess because of kanji they don't need as many. Like used to be ye, like
Right.
like yebisu, like
Like they used to differentiate between, yeah, I think they differentiated between, like there was two. There was et and then there was yet,
right.
and now it's just both sound the same.
And I can't help but feel that like the reason that they can lose sounds is because if you're a Japanese person with a knowledge of kanji, you don't have that much need for variation in sounds.
Right. And it's not, yeah, and I mean, as long as you have context, even words that sound the same, it's like you just have as long as you have the context there, they really lean heavily on context.
That's the thing too, like connecting that, like the whole read the air thing. So for the listener, like in Japan, it's this big thing, like read the air, just kind of know what's going on without being explained.
Right.
That's what that means. I wonder if the fact that that became such an important part of Japanese culture is because of the language.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I never thought of it like
they're
that.
all morphing and evolving together on this small island for 2,000 years. And
Yeah.
you have this language that relies heavily on context and not on sound differentiation. I think the language itself, this is just my bullshit theory, but the language itself influenced the culture.
I can see how that could, yeah, that sounds kind of a good theory. Because, yeah, if you're leaving out the subject in a sentence all the time, people don't know what
Yes.
you're talking about. So it's like, okay, we got to put importance on reading people's minds here. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you're not good at reading my mind. It's like, okay. But
Right.
that's an important thing. So, of course, they have to do something. It's like, okay, our language is limiting us. What are we gonna do? Okay, we got to make this an important thing, you know?
That's one of the first things I was taught about Japanese. Somebody said in Japanese they don't say I, you, he, she, or it that much, and
Right.
I was like, how the fuck do they talk then?
Yeah.
You know?
Every day it's just like, eat, go, go library.
But it feels very implied though. It's like you can almost hear them saying it even though they're not saying it.
Right, right.
It
And that's
feels
actually something.
like it's there.
Right, right, right. And that's actually something I've had to really, really work hard to deal with because, like I said earlier, I've always been in my own world. I've always been in my own little world since I was a kid. Like, I'm not really good at like paying attention to my surroundings. So when I came to Japan, everything's going over my head. I'm not reading the air, as they say in Japanese. And so I really don't like it because of that. That's one of the things I don't like about living here is because of that. I mean, it's just a little thing, but it was just a big thing for me.
No, I mean it's huge because whenever you're an English speaker, like pronouns are half the language
Yeah.
that you're using, or yeah, pronouns. So to say that like they don't use that, it's like kind of shocking at first, but then
Yeah.
it's not even just that. Like it'll be even the whole indirectness and
Right. There's that.
yeah.
Yeah. Even that, like I can't understand if someone's saying, "Um, it's hot in here" or something like that, and I'll be like, "Yeah," and then, but really, they're like thinking, "You go turn on the air conditioning." That's what I'm saying it for. It's like,
Yeah, right,
but
right.
I'm not. That doesn't click with me. I'm just like kind of sharing it. It's like, yeah, it is a little hot in here. Yeah, it's like, that's it. That's it. You know.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, that stuff is hard, man, but it's surprising how much you can get used to it as well.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten a lot used to it. I've actually gotten to the point where I can read what people mean, but sometimes on purpose, I will act like I don't understand because sometimes I don't like the indirectness, and I want people to be more direct. It's
Right.
just it's just kind of it's not very. I mean, I understand maybe it's their culture, but some people I just think it's going too far, and I'll pretend like I don't understand what they're indirectly trying to say, just to try to make them say something. You know, just be like,
Right.
it's like, come on,
That's
come on,
like
just
a
get the ball rolling here. You can do it.
that's a uniquely Japanese problem, I feel like.
Yeah.
What do you think is like the biggest misconception about Japan that Americans have? Because like I hear some of the stuff sometimes living in LA.
Big misconceptions. Uh, a lot of the conceptions are true.
Like
Is
what?
that a word? Can you say conception by itself? But yeah, like a lot of people say all the time is like, oh, the women in Japan are so beautiful, and I agree with that. That's true. The food is great. I agree with that. Let's say what else. Um, oh, one thing is there's like everyone's really nice. You'll hardly ever run into rude people. And I think that's kind of a misconception, even though on the whole it's kind of true relative to a lot of countries, but I still think it is a misconception because you'll definitely run into rude people. I run into rude people every day. I can see rude people. I can see rudeness happening every day, and I think that's kind of a misconception. And yeah, I think people
There's,
just
there's an interesting point there. Like it feels like when a Japanese person is just kind of nice to you on the street in Japan, like I feel like if somebody was nice to you on the street in America, you might start to think that you're friends. Like
Oh.
it feels closer, but like in Japan they're nice to you of course, but there's no closeness there either. Like I don't know how
Right.
to describe it. It's like there's no possibility of you becoming friends right there.
Right.
Like they'll help you out, but don't expect them to like do anything other than like help you out like right there.
Right. Unless they're trying to get you to teach them English. That's the
Right.
only exception. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, in America everyone's like super friendly to the point where it's like you'll be lined up at a cash register and the guy behind you will start being like, "Hey man," and they'll just be like start talking to you and they'll tell you their life story and they'll be like
Right.
and it's like, "Hey, yeah, we should hey, you want to go hang out sometime or something like that." I mean, that's doesn't always happen, but it could. It's very
It's more possible here, yeah.
yeah.
So the biggest thing that I've noticed is that like the one of the like big misconceptions about Japan I feel is that it seems like Americans really think that the Japanese are like sexually deviant.
Really?
The whole like panty vending machine thing comes up a
Oh,
lot.
right.
And it's like I tell people like I lived there for 3 fucking years. I never ever saw a panty vending machine. And also you have to like go to a red light district anyway.
Right.
And on top of that, they can't be too sexually deviant because they're not fucking.
Right. Yeah, that is a good point about that is a good misconception. Because yeah, people in Japan, I mean, it's no one's talking about that kind of thing. I mean, no one's running around. People don't just run around and like I don't know. No one's what am I trying to say? There's no weirdos, just sexual deviants running around. I mean, sure there are, but I mean, most people here they don't want to talk about that kind of stuff. They don't. I mean, people don't get around and watch porno together or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think it's just like the dirty
there's this-
magazines on the shelves. They're just like kind of accepted because it's always been there, even though I'm sure a lot of people don't really think it's good.
Right.
They just accept it because they grew up with it being that part of the culture, even if they probably don't like it. I'm sure lots of parents and just people in general would be like, yeah, it's probably not a good thing, but what are you gonna do?
It's all softcore anyway. I mean, the stuff on the shelves.
I don't know.
Is it
Well,
hardcore too?
Seems like it.
Oh wow.
I haven't looked because they're usually taped shut.
Right.
Because you have to buy it.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know. From the cover, it doesn't seem. Well, I guess it would be soft. It just depends on what you consider soft and hard. But I guess that relatively to the whole world, it would be soft. Yeah.
I mean, as far as like, I think it's just usually anyway, as far as I know, they just showing woman's breast,
Right.
and there's no like sex happening, as far as
That's
I know.
true. Yeah, that's true.
Like it's like the panty vending machine, and just like they think that every Japanese person has a crazy fetish.
Yeah.
And it's like, why, where did this come from? Why do people have that? Just because of the panty vending machine thing?
Just yeah, articles. If you read an article and you read more articles about it later, you'll just start to think probably it's like, oh, it's just on the street. So it's normal or something, you know, but it's
Right.
not really.
I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah. And then they have the articles about the sex festivals.
Oh,
So that-
with like the dick
Stuff, too.
festival?
Yeah.
That shit's just kind of funny, though.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even consider that. If they're thinking that's a fetish, that's kind of weird, but that's
It would
also... It's kind of a case of kind of like not understanding another person's culture as well. And if you're from like the Puritan Christian society and you see a dick festival, you might think that's a little weird, but I don't know. I
Right.
think it's fine.
Yeah. But it might affect someone's opinion about Japan and a bit. You
Right,
think,
right.
Oh, the vending machine stuff makes sense now.
Yeah. They worship dicks.
Yeah.
Well, many
Oh,
women and gay men do worship dicks.
For the record, I've never been to one of those.
Apparently, it's gotten popular with like gay foreign dudes as well. They go there to like, have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a vagina one?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
Yep. I remember seeing an article about it, I think, recently.
Vagina Fest 2017? So, I don't know, man. I guess we're about done.
Okay.
Did you have any questions for me or anything?
No, I don't know. I didn't think about that.
I usually catch the interviewee off guard with this question.
Um, so who's usually there with you? You said in the beginning some of the guys weren't around.
Oh, so yeah, this is called SuperHouse Podcast, and it's with other SuperHouse members. And what SuperHouse is, it was basically a house that we had in college. That's all it is, and we called it SuperHouse because we wanted to name our house.
Oh, okay.
We've been 10 years away from each other, just about, 10 years this year. And we decided to kind of get together and talk about shit. And what's weird is, like, not much has changed. We're having the same fucking conversation just with new material.
That's cool. I wish
but
I
it's-
could.
Go ahead, sorry.
I wish I could have kept up more with friends from college.
You can with the internet, bro.
Yeah, that's true. We just kind of never really did.
Yeah, we had, like, a pretty crazy last year. And I guess we got together from all that. I mean, we just kind of meet online. I don't see him a whole lot in person.
Yeah.
One dude lives in Latvia, man. He's calling in
Wow.
from Latvia.
Jeez.
Yeah. So, it's generally like we talk a lot about comic book movies and news and video games and stuff like that. But I do like to add in like the travel/culture segment as well. I mean, we interviewed a guy that lived in Mongolia. He was an English teacher in Mongolia. We interviewed one of our friends that was what they call a third culture kid, where she was of Japanese descent, born in Japan, but she lived all over Southeast Asia. Mainly, it seemed like India and Thailand, but in American English school. So her story was interesting and stuff like that. So we try to like mix it up.
Yeah, that's cool. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. I'm big on like trying to like connect pop culture with actual culture to see if there's something where you can like make connections, because a lot of Japanophiles they've kind of done this naturally where they start out liking anime, but then they might like, I don't know, like a festival in Japan or origami or something like that, like an actual cultural element,
Yeah.
martial arts or something. So
Right.
you did like a lot of Japanophiles, they do make that jump where it's from pop culture to real culture.
Yeah, that's something I actually never did. I'm kind of different from a lot of people. There's so many other foreigners, they'll come here and they'll be like really into like certain aspects of culture. And I'll sit here and I'll just be like, I don't really care about much. Like I just basically I just live here and I'm not really into culture. I only really, really loved learning the language, and now I'm done with that. So
Right.
now that that's done, I'm just like living here, and that's pretty much it. I mean, it doesn't mean I don't like Japan. I love it, and I love living here, and I love a lot about it, but I'm not like into anything anymore, you know?
You're not like going to temples and shit.
Right. I'm not going to temples or onsens. I'm not ramen shop jumping. I don't know if that's even a thing, but
It probably is,
Whatever.
being a foodie or whatever.
yeah.
It's funny how you're kind of a homebody, but you also like live in another country.
Right. That's pretty much I'll make a jump, but then I'll make that new place my home, and then I'll be the same again, you know?
All right. Interesting, bro. Well, I think that's going to do it.
Alrighty.
Thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, and sorry that we couldn't do this earlier.
No,
never
it's
being
fine.
able to make it happen.
You came in at a great time, and also like just to again explain, we kind of did this like last second, like literally 2 hours ago. I Facebook messaged him. It's like, hey, you want to record something? And you were like, yeah. That pretty much was it.
Yeah, it was good timing. I
Yeah,
was actually scheduled to do something with my kids this morning, but that got canceled. So then, yeah, we're just sitting here. So it's good timing.
awesome, cool. Well, I think that's gonna do it, bro.
Alrighty.
All right,
Thanks, man.
no
And
problem.
I'll talk to you on the net.
All right. See you on the interwebs.
Alrighty, man. Later.
Bye.